the average Joe, which Nelson talks about. And I want everybody to hear this. When you read Become Your Own Banker, it is vital to remember that Nelson said this is not for financial professionals. This is not for people to make money off of. This is for the average Joe, you and me, and how money's flowing through our life. And we have to recognize that. And right now, we are being taken advantage of by the banking processes, cash or finance. And there's a way to start taking control of that. If we believe that to be true, which you and I do, without a doubt, then that will almost force our hand to go, what next? Or be haunted by it, which happens too.
You give up what that money could have done if it would have been in a better environment. And so that's called opportunity cost. And opportunity cost doesn't show up on your budget, but it's very, very real. So when you pay cash, what you have to ask yourself is, where did that money come from? What job was it doing before the purchase? And what job can it no longer do?
Welcome to the Cashflow Legendz podcast with your hosts Nate, Brandon, and Brock. Remember, our insights are not direct financial advice, so consult with your financial team before making any decisions based on the topics discussed in this show.
Welcome back to Cashflow Legendz. Nate and I are excited that you are here. Brock is out today. I can't wait to hear where Brock is, what he's doing, what he's learning, because Nate, I can almost guarantee you that he's out and about learning something, and we'll be able to bring that back the next time that we chat, that he's on with us. Nate, we are recording between Thanksgiving and Christmas, so this will probably come out before Christmas right now.
If you're watching right now, you notice our festive hoodies we have on. I've got the green, Brandon's rocking the red.
Yeah, we thought that having the Christmas spirit would be important, and so Nate designed some pullovers that really fit our logo and what we're doing. And I'll tell you what, Nate, you walk around with a shirt on that says "Live Different, Live Unlimited," and it's not uncommon to get stopped and get asked, what is it that you do? What does that mean?
Yep. We've had some members say, yeah, I was wearing my ULC shirt, and somebody said, I really like your shirt. And it just opened up that conversation for what it was really about.
Yeah. So Nate, today we are going to break down one page in Becoming Your Own Banker. Page 65. It's part 5, and it's called Capitalizing Your System and Implementation. So to frame out, this is the real starting line. Okay, so we've done the work. We've read pages 1 through 65. We've asked the questions. We've gotten the clarity to our current knowledge, which this is an ongoing thing. And now, one of our favorite questions that we love to hear, Nate, that we asked early on in our journey is, what's next?
Yeah.
How do I begin to implement this? But you and I were rereading page 65 before we hit record, and we were reminded that Nelson laid it all out on this page as far as what are the step-by-step processes that you want to go through if this is something you want to implement.
Yeah, we tell people all the time, we will teach you as much as you want to learn about this. And if you desire to work with us, then we are happy to come alongside you and become your coaches as well as your agents, get your policy set up for you, all that fun stuff. But if for some reason you have somebody else that you would rather work with, that's okay too. You're not necessarily obligated to working with us. But the one thing that we strongly recommend is whoever you decide to work with, make sure that they've read Becoming Your Own Banker, they understand Becoming Your Own Banker, and they're practicing the process themselves. Because if they're not, how are they going to teach you how to do it?
Nate, I love that point. And let's just take out Becoming Your Own Banker and the infinite banking concept right now. Isn't that true for anything? If I go to get expertise on any topic and that person's telling me what I should be doing, but they're not living it, there's a disconnect there.
Here's a great example that reminds me of my glory days on Twitter. Like I've got close to 50,000 followers on Twitter, but my glory
Humble
days on,
brag.
my glory days on Twitter when my account was growing like crazy. These people would reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, I can help you grow your account." And I would look at my follower account versus their follower account and go, "No, you can't."
Yep. Yep. And Nate, that's an interesting thing that we can definitely dive into as far as mindset and behavior. And this is really what Nelson's talking about. Okay, you've done the work so far. Remember, the first half of the book is about behavior. It's about recognizing that these things are going on in our life related to money. So one key piece is everyone, you listening, you watching, me and Nate, everyone is already spending their money. It's going somewhere. We're all in that category. So
Yeah.
change requires intention.
We just walked through a cash flow structure exercise on a previous call, and for somebody who was making $100,000 a year and assuming that their income is increasing on average by around 4% per year, if they did not spend a dime of that money after 30 years, they would have like $5.6 million. The problem is we have to spend that money. And so everybody's like, money is flowing out of your life constantly. And the only way to create change is to disrupt the pattern.
Yeah. Nate, I think that ties in perfectly with one of Nelson's first key points on here is the desire to change has to be there. And then our intentionality will start matching that desire. And that truth is relevant in anything we do. If I want to quit being a potato on the couch, I can have the desire all day long. But until I take action intentionally, I'm not going to be able to say I'm making changes. I'm just talking about it. So this is what you just alluded to early on. We want to help as many people that want to help themselves, but they first have to recognize what you just said. And we had to recognize this, Nate. This is why we love what we do. We're not saying something we haven't experienced or we don't experience. They have to realize and decide, is money really flowing through my life? And do I want to create a way to keep more of it? Working for the things that matter to me the most. Because, Nate, we say flow through our life like we're a bystander. Like we can't control it. Like it just has to happen the way that it always has. So Nelson talks about desire to change first. And Nate, if I could go back and teach ourselves anything, as we've taught so many people, shared this, really educated, coached, if the desire to change is not there, we're wasting our breath.
Yeah. It takes me back to a story that I heard one time about a guy who walks in a bar and there's this dog over in the corner of the bar, and he notices the dog will kind of move around a little bit and whimper as he's moving around, but he's stuck in that same spot. And so the guy asked the bartender, "Hey, what's wrong with that dog? Why is he whimpering?" And he said, "Well, he's in that corner over there, but he's actually laying on a nail." And he said, "Well, why didn't the dog just get up and move?" And he said, "Because it doesn't hurt enough." And there, oftentimes what we find is pain. When the pain is great enough, the desire shows up even greater.
Yeah, Nate, that's a truthful reality for change. Period. Is pain a level of pain that gets too much to bear? Often is the cause of the next step or action.
Yeah.
And Nelson talks about really honing in on what we're really doing in becoming our own banker through the infinite banking concept is we are changing priorities and taking ownership. And that
For sure.
scares some people. That scared me and you, Nate, before we fully understood it. And so
Yeah.
there's something I have on a sticky note here. You start becoming your own banker in IBC in our mind before our money starts fueling it. If you try to start with your money before your mindset shifted, it's going to create other challenges. And this is why we love what we do, because it requires the other person to decide they want to learn something and lean into something different.
Yeah, and sometimes the problems are subtle. Sometimes we go through life not recognizing that there's a problem until we're shown the problem. Until someone comes along and sort of pulls back the curtain on what's going on. And Brandon, you and I, we talk about this. We started talking about this more. Something we call the three MPs. And that's the three money problems that everybody faces in their life. And the first one is most people don't have structure for their cash flow. The second one
Hey, let's
is
talk about that real quick, just
okay.
at a high level, so
Yeah.
somebody doesn't hear that and go, because I try to go back 10 years ago. If I'd have heard somebody say that, I'd been like,
Yep.
structure for your cash flow. All Nate's saying is money's coming into your life from somewhere, paycheck, business, windfalls, inheritance, whatever. And you and I have to have a structure to tell those dollars what to do, or they will disappear.
Yeah. And the structure really revolves around creating rules for yourself that you don't have to remember to follow every day. So, and we talk about this often. There's a tool that we use, that we teach others about, called Currents, that allows us to create rules for ourselves, to create separation, to automate separation between our income and our expenses.
Yeah, let's touch on
Over
that real quick,
time.
Nate. Income and
Yes.
expenses. Ask this question for anybody to listen to. Anybody who's ever got a raise at work or an increase in income. Do you go, I'm going to be disciplined and not spend that new raise, or have you already started thinking about spending it before it hits your pocket? That's income and expenses, which Nelson talks about as Parkinson's law. Same thing.
Yeah, I was visiting with somebody this past week, and I said, when money shows up in your life that you weren't anticipating, you know, let's say your operating budget for your week is $2,000 a week, okay, and then you get a little mini windfall, like an extra $250 or $500 shows up in your life that you weren't anticipating. If that money goes into your checking account, what percentage of it gets spent? And he was like, at least 50%. Well,
Yeah.
why did that happen? Because when we have money show up in our life that was sort of unplanned, we almost treat it as free money in a weird way. We forget
Yeah.
that there's opportunity cost attached to that money.
Yeah, Nathan, let's add this piece to it as well. That question, the way you framed it and the way that person responded, made me think half of it got spent that month.
Oh yeah,
What happened to the
like
other half?
almost immediately.
Yeah,
And
what
I
happened to
mean,
the other
I'm
half?
completely guilty of the same thing. So
We
I
all
tell
are.
people when we're coaching, I tell people all the time, we show up on these calls with a lot of humility because we still find ourselves fighting against those old behaviors.
We'll come back to it in a minute, Nate, but Nelson, a little further down, talks about recognizing and knowing the problem. And so that's what you're describing. We're at least aware of the problem, but it requires systems like you're talking about to not even have to think about beating the problem. It's habitual. And there's another example Nelson uses about if we want to change our physical appearance, we're going to hire a coach. Okay. So I say this humbly. Nate said at the very beginning, this is all that we do. We live it, we teach it, we share it, we believe it. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of what we do. It's part of what our company is. So when you know that, it goes back to that other piece that Nate said of, this is your money flowing through your life. And the important question is are you surrounding yourself with people that are asking you the tough questions to accomplish what you want?
So it reminds me, I don't know if I've ever told this story before, but in 2020, that was an incredible year for our business, Unlimited Life Concepts. And I got very, very focused on the growth of our business and less focused on my health and what I was eating and everything like that. Now, that was also a weird year because there were things that were shut down at times or whatever. And we found ourselves often calling in takeout food a lot. And so, anyways, I get to the end of 2020 and not recognizing a problem in that moment. But in January of 2021, I stepped on the scale for the first time in a while and I saw a number that made me sick because I knew that it wasn't muscle.
It was takeout.
And it was takeout. It was the sedentary, lifestyle. And so I immediately asked myself, who do I know that can help me with this? And reached out to them and got on a plan. And within probably 3 months, 3 or 4 months, I was down 15, 20 pounds. And I've maintained that since then.
Yeah, Nate, Nelson does a really good job of, in this one page, basically saying that IBC is like hiring a conditioning coach and starting a conditioning program. It's not an event. And this is something I see so often, Nate, is we try to solve the problems with the thinking that got us there instead of going, the thinking that got me here cannot be the thinking that gets me where I want to go. And that's often where pain ends up happening, is like something's got to change. But
Yep.
it's not always blunt force. Sometimes it's slow and steady. And somebody looks up 50, 60 years down the road and goes, why didn't somebody say this to me? Why didn't somebody teach me this? Well, first thing is somebody may have, but were we ready to listen and receive it? Because that's a key piece.
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of something that Darren Hardy shared one time in the compound effect. Um, if if eating fried chicken or whatever immediately put 10 pounds on you, like right after you ate it, how many more people would just skip it? But it's a slow fade. It's a gradual process that one day you look up and realize, oh man, there's a problem.
Yeah. Just like eating chicken every day or calling in, call out, or fast food or whatever, it doesn't matter. Those are systematic things that we do that don't show the net negative till down the road. And for some of us, it might be, if we're in our 20s, you may not see it to your 40s. But make no mistake about it, from your 40s to 60s, if something doesn't change, you're going to spend 20 years suffering more for the lack of discipline in your 20s to 40s. There's no way around it. Now, I don't want to be doom and gloom only. Nate, I was talking to one of our ULC members. We say members, that's clients for anybody listening. And he said, it is wild what can happen in a year.
Mm.
And
True.
if I could encourage anybody listening, watching, no matter what area of life, first, you can't segment areas of life. That's a lie that is taught in America. And I believe it's a deeper lie taught from the pits of hell. It all is a part of who we are. But anything that's going to require change is going to require this awareness that something has to change and then action. There's just no way around it. And it's not ever going to be perfect, but you're going to redevelop new principles that you can gauge progress in. So, Nate, a big theme for us last year and this year is small, consistent actions. A small, consistent action in how you start setting up systems for your money flow. A small, consistent action in how you show up at the gym every day or 3 times when you were doing none, or at the basketball court when you weren't. Those things have a ripple effect that we also can't see the benefits of immediately, but we will see the benefits of them. So here's a piece to help do this. First, understand that capitalizing our IBC system which is paying premiums and being a good banker and not stealing the peas, all things Nelson talks about are there in the book. Capitalization works no matter what we're wanting to be good at. So Nelson also talks about one of the best ways, Nate, to capitalize on this new shift and this new mindset and this new lifetime commitment is get around like-minded people so you don't feel like a lone ranger.
For sure. For sure.
Nate, touch on that a little bit. Our most successful members, and we're not defining success as multimillionaires or solving the world problem, but like having a dramatic shift in peace of mind and control of money and their dollars fueling their purpose. What are the most consistent things we see those members do?
Well, they tend to have a powerful support system around them. They tend to have accountability in their life. They tend to have strong values. One of the characteristics that we see often is somebody who is willing to be coached, like someone who's willing to lean in and learn, who hasn't succumbed to arrival syndrome, but also someone who's willing to think long term, who's not about the next shiny object necessarily, but is more concerned with the heritage that they want to build and leave behind for their family one day.
Yeah, Nate, one of the things that we have had the privilege of doing more of, that we are a part of, that benefits us just as much as our members or people interested in learning what we do is, and Brock does this a lot locally where he is, he gets around other people and has conversations. And we do things called Pizza in Perspective. We'll have one coming up this Saturday for us. I really like this statement that I saw. What the difference is isolation kills momentum and community multiplies it. Now that works both ways, because if I'm in a community of people that are thinking negatively, that there's always a problem that they can't solve, that works the other way. But if I show up on a Saturday morning from 9 to 12 and I go, I'm committing to showing up, even though I would rather be doing this, this, and this, but my focus is to be better at new systems and habits and behaviors. The showing up is one of the hardest pieces.
Yeah.
Like that old saying, the heaviest weight at the gym is the front door. Just showing up. And that's relevant for anything. So if you think you're going to be a lone wolf and figure this out on your own, I am telling you, you're going to have a slow fade and it's going to be very challenging.
Yeah.
Because you're going to hear what everyone else says to do, which doesn't always work most of the time.
So that first money problem, the cash flow structure, we kind of talked through that a little bit. The second one is cash versus finance. So most people believe that there are two ways to buy things. You either pay cash or you finance. But here's the part that no one taught us. Every purchase is financed, always. The question is, how is it financed? So if you finance through a bank, you pay interest. But if you pay cash, you give up what that money could have done if it would have been in a better environment. And so that's called opportunity cost. And opportunity cost doesn't show up on your budget, but it's very, very real. So when you are financing, you're giving up interest by paying interest to the bank. When you're paying cash, you're giving up the interest that money could have earned if it would have been in a better environment. And you're always making payments to someone. You're either making payments to the bank or you're making payments to yourself for a future purchase when you're paying cash. So when you pay cash, what you have to ask yourself is, where did that money come from? What job was it doing before the purchase? And what job can it no longer do now?
And Nate, being someone who did cash only and got out of debt as fast as we could because of discipline principles that are important. When I read that and I realized that I was financing to myself by saving up cash, which is what you just said in a different way, that is financing no matter how we dice it. One of those two ways are going to happen. We're going to either be doing the financing through someone else's rules or we're going to have a little more control and we're going to be saving it via cash. But that key piece of lost opportunity says, if I save up $500 a month for the next 2 years, that's 12 grand. And Nate has a thing that I want to buy from Nate. Well, for 2 years, depending on where I save that 500 a month, even if it's a high yield savings account, I got some interest, but I pay taxes on it. If it's in the market, I subjected it to the rules of the market until I pulled it out. But if I paid Nate that 12 grand, here's a key piece that I didn't get. That 12 grand doesn't disappear, Nate. It's going to go to your hands. And if you don't know how to treat it well, then you're going to pass it on to someone else's hands. But make no mistake about it, it's going to get to someone's hands and in their knowledge to where they become the owner, controller, and ruler of that money, and they pass it on to the next generation while they still use it and benefit from it.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but I heard a billionaire one time say money is always looking for the best home.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so if you create a great environment for money in your life, you'd be surprised how it could show up.
So
And
on that note, Nate, you said environment. Let's be sure that a first-time listener, somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of context, maybe they haven't read the first 64 pages of Becoming Your Own Banker. We have to first recognize fully that our money has to be in some type of environment. And there really aren't that many when you think about it. When you write them down, they're not that many. There's only 4 things we can do with money, Nate. And this simplifies it, makes it less complicated. We can save it somewhere in an environment. We can spend it somewhere that goes to some other environment. We can invest it. What else can we do? I'm missing
give
one.
it away.
Give it away. Yep. We can give it away. That's it. And so when we realize it's not complicated, then that you go back to that question at the beginning, Nate, of how much of your money do you want to keep in your life, your ecosystem, for your people, for your purposes, for your mindset, and what's necessary to do so. And Nelson does a great job of making sure that we understand behavior shifts first, money starts to follow, and then we go, oh, I see the problem.
Yeah, and what you just said really leads right into the third money problem, which is human life value. So if the two the first two are about how money moves, the third problem is about what money really represents. So this one is rarely talked about. And it's the most important because whether you realize it or not, you are a walking economic engine. And
You are worth something every second of the day.
absolutely, over your lifetime, a certain amount of money will flow through your hands, through your work, through your ideas, your creativity, your service, whatever that might be. That number, whatever that number is, it exists whether you plan for it or not. So the real question becomes, how much of that lifetime money do you want to guarantee stays in your family?
Give an example, Nate. Joe, the average Joe, which Nelson talks about, and I want everybody to hear this. When you read Become Your Own Banker, it is vital to remember that Nelson said this is not for financial professionals. This is not for people to make money off of. This is for the average Joe, you and me, and how money's flowing through our life. And we have to recognize that. And right now, we are being taken advantage of by the banking processes, cash or finance. And there's a way to start taking control of that. If we believe that to be true, which you and I do, without a doubt, then that will almost force our hand to go, what next? Or be haunted by it, which happens too. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well,
on that point, go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was just going to say to kind of bring in what you just said, human life value is the asset that no one sees, but it's the asset that everything else is dependent on. So we ask people often, do you realize that you are your greatest asset? Or sometimes we say, what is your greatest asset? And they'll typically think about house or, something like that, or their whatever account they have or whatever, without realizing their greatest asset is their ability to produce, their ability to create value. And so most families unknowingly leave their largest asset unprotected or underprotected.
Yeah, Nate, I was having this conversation yesterday with one of our members, clients, and I said, "Hey, get a pen and a piece of paper out. Do you understand how insurance companies calculate human life value?" And we just wrote down his gross income. And Nate, I'm going to let you touch on gross income from our conversation earlier today. Not after taxes, not after inflation, not in a retirement account, your gross income. And we just use the average easy number, 100,000. And I said, "Okay, how old are you right now?" And he's around 35. So I said, "I want you to take that 100,000 and I want you to multiply it by 30. Okay. 30 years till you're age 65. Most insurance companies use age 65. That's your retirement date. They have to use it for math." And I said, "What number do you come up with?" And he's like, "Well, 100,000 times 30, that's 3 million. I said, "Do you agree that if nothing changes, that you've already proven that you can create $100,000 or produce $100,000 a year by what you do?" He said, "Yes." And then he said, I love this. And then he said, "I'm going to continue to increase my income earning potential. So if I double this in 10 years, can I go back and do the new calculation?" I said, "Absolutely. But in 10 years, you're going to be 40. So now you're going to only get to multiply it by 20." And he had an aha moment. He goes, "I will never be more insurable to protect all of my income for the future than today."
Yep.
I said, "That is your human life value." Now it turns into a game. How much can I increase it? How healthy can I stay? Good Lord willing. And how can I keep making this number go up?
Yeah, whenever I tell people that, because there's a common misconception or misunderstanding around life insurance, where most people, and I used to be most people believe that you can buy as much life insurance as you can afford. That is
Nope.
not true. You can only buy as much life insurance as the insurance company is willing to offer you. So
Yep.
if it is available to you, if you can qualify for it, then you may not qualify for it tomorrow. So anytime you can qualify, whatever you can qualify for, that is an opportunity to guarantee the protection of that money, the protection of your income. And to what you were saying earlier about taxes, kind of an aha moment that we had earlier was insurance companies operate off of your gross income, but we don't live off of our gross income because we got to pay taxes. So that means that in a way, the insurance company is also simultaneously allowing us to recover some of the tax that we're going to be paying in our working years.
Yeah, Nate, I want to touch on that real quick. As I was talking to the same
And
member,
let me clarify that for just a second. Not saying that you're getting your taxes back through your life
that's
insurance.
right. That's right.
That money is going to be protected for to stay in your family for the future.
What insurance companies look at, and this is go back to Nelson earlier in the book, a mutual insurance company that's been around 100 plus years, paying dividends consecutively for 100 plus years with a whole life policy. So this is what we're talking about. Okay. Knowing that, as I was talking to this member yesterday, he already has some insurance, some whole life, some term. So he had an aha moment because he was like, "Well, I already have some insurance over here. It's like $500,000." And he goes, "So is that a part of the equation of the 3 million that he just did on paper?" I said, "Yes, insurance companies take your whole insurability across any companies that there are because they have to remain profitable and sound." Said another way, they don't get over leveraged or they're very good at not doing it. Okay. So you can't pay for all the insurance you want because they also cap you on how much premium you can pay per your income. So if I make 100 grand, most insurance companies are going to cap you at paying about a $25,000, 25% premium. That's not because they're doing something wrong. That's because they know how the numbers have to work over hundreds of years, law of large numbers. Now, Nate, to move into, okay, if this all makes sense, here's the thing. I can hear people screaming who aren't doing this, but it's still a premium I got to pay for, and I don't have any money.
Yeah.
This is where working with someone who is living this, and Nelson even says it, they will have the ability to ask you questions. Like for us, we do a financial intake, so does Brock, to draw out where's all the money flowing, who's it going to, how's it going there, where's it sitting, what are the rules, what are the environments. And here's what I love more than anything, Nate. If somebody leans into that, which costs absolutely nothing but a little putting down of the pride sometimes to go, somebody might could help me, and they've already read Becoming Your Own Banker, what they start seeing is that money was leaving their life almost silently. That becomes dollars they can start using to start. So it's not a new cost. Touch on that, Nate, because new costs, that could kind of be clickbait. I'm not saying new costs like the money magically appears. It was there all the time.
Well, I think that probably leads into a question that, that I ask people sometimes, which is, if there was no cost to life insurance, how much would you have? The number one answer is as much as I can get. So my second question to that would be, if we can show you how to recover the costs of your life insurance over your lifetime many times over, and also build a pool of capital that you have access to, would that be something you would want to learn more about? You know what the number one answer is? Yes, absolutely. Tell me more.
And just for the naysayers, because I can hear it churning, because Nate and I have all these conversations all the time. If you don't believe that's possible, then you are saying, and we're happy for you, that you're happy doing what you're doing. And here's where people ask me all the time, Brandon, how are you so confident in this? Because I lived the other life of how we're taught to think about money with cash versus finance only. And I have that life to compare to this life over the last 8 years and the journey Nate and I have been on in learning and implementing. And make no mistake about it, Nelson says it is a lifetime commitment. This will not work if you think it's an investment that you pay for. This is a cash flow
strategy.
Yep. Strategy. That's exactly right. So we're giving you an invitation to step out of wherever you feel like you are imprisoned. And here's the key piece. Imprisonment doesn't mean that you aren't being successful. I think that's a misunderstood thing sometimes, Nate. It's like, well, if I'm not drowning in debt or owing a bunch of people or blah, 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 or have no free cash flow, then this isn't for me. No, that's not true. This is for everyone who can shift their thinking to realize that all this money was going to go through your life somewhere or another anyway.
I just had this picture as you were talking about people being in prison, financial prison, so to speak. Imagine people are out there and they're in this financial prison. And so you're in this prison and the warden walks in and hands you the key, or slips his arm through the bars and hands you the key. And what a lot of people tend to do is they go, that key won't work that door. Without even trying the key.
Yep.
So for those who are like the skeptics, whatever, we love skepticism. We say lean into that, because skepticism is not a bad thing. It just means you don't have enough information to have a definitive position yet.
Yep.
So the equivalent of trying the key is reach out to us and let us just show you what's possible.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing, Nate. That key will unlock your door, but you have to grab it and you have to be willing to see if it works. Because we can say all day long, here's the key, and it'll get you out and put it in your hand. But like you said, Nate, so well, if we're not willing to take the action. So here's my challenge to anyone listening. If you're willing to read a book and write down how you think, what you think about the book you read, Becoming Your Own Banker, then that's step one. You're already headed in a really good direction. You don't have to contact us to do that. We have tons of people who do all their research and studying before they ever come to us. The question that I say always is, did you come ready to ask questions? Because that's what we want. Because the only way that our thinking gets churned through is to compare it to how we've always thought. Now, some people like to talk to us first. Great. Nate loves doing that. He's exceptional at it. I love doing it in person, almost always here locally. Fantastic. But your realization of, could I accomplish what I'm already trying to accomplish better or more efficiently, with more peace of mind, with more certainty, with more control, with more liquidity, by doing what Nate and Brandon do in their own life? Nate, what's the downside of seeing if that could be so and committing a month to it?
Learning something new. That's the downside. Worst case scenario is you're going to learn something new.
Yeah.
Best case scenario is you'll be a success story like some of the other ones that we have.
And let's touch on this, because this comes up all the time, because it's always in the back of people's mind, and everybody operates different. But for us, if you're willing to read a book and pay $25 to get the book shipped to you, start reading it, that's the cost. If you're willing to schedule a call and show up, don't no-show us, because our time's valuable, just like yours is, then that's the cost. Your time is your most valuable asset that you're choosing to make a deposit into learning something new. Now, that first month, just be ready and buckle up. If you start seeing the problem like Nate and I did, because we had enough pain in our life from trying it the other ways, you're not going to be able to unsee this. And that's how you and I, Nate, so confidently embrace skepticism now, where early on it was a little harder. Because skepticism is healthy. It's how we create friction. We learn through things. Remaining in skepticism is a death wish. And there's two very different approaches to that. So if you want to see if this is a different version of where you're headed that could let you do more with the energy you're already applying, it requires some action. We're not going to walk into your living room and go, here, do this. We'll tell you how to be successful. You have to take the action. Nate, anything to finish up?
I think so. I think that's some good information that could help a lot of people.
Nelson's words, not mine. Above all else, get started. The longer we wait, the more we have penalized ourselves. And Nate, you and I can say without a doubt, gosh, if we could have latched on and understood this at 20 instead of 35. But that's okay.
Well, yeah, and it reminds me, when you talk to somebody who's done this for a while, you say, if you could do it different, what would you do? There's two things they say. I would have started sooner, and I would have started bigger.
And that's our words also. But make no mistake about it, a compounding curve working in your favor can only start working in your favor if you start. So even if it's starting to read, or starting to study, or starting to listen to episodes, or getting on a call with Nate, that is the first step to the compounding curve working in a way that will benefit you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We are grateful that we have the opportunity to share our time with you and you with us. Hit those likes and subscribes. Please leave comments. Send us any questions. Go to cashflowlegendz.com to find any resources that we've referred earlier. And we hope that when you listen to this, you're at least of the mindset that I will never know everything. Arrival syndrome is real, like Nelson said. And where can I lean into it and grow in some area of my life? Have a blessed day.